reconvene the Scotch Plains Family Board of Education open agenda meeting June 13th, 2019. We just came out of executive session and we will be returning to executive session later and business will be acted upon. At this time, I'd like to have Mrs. Saradaki please call the roll.
Mrs. Laura? Here. Ms. Gray? Here. Dr. Clancy?
Here.
Ms. Soriani? Here. Ms. Williams? Present. Ms. Sprinkler? Here. Mr. Warren?
Here.
Dr. Kolakowski?
Here.
Quorum is present.
Thank you, Ms. Saradaki. Now, we already did the Pledge of Allegiance. We had a recognition program for the JV and varsity baseball, varsity golf, boys varsity volleyball, and Jacob Lee and Ben Fleischer for spring track accomplishments in the new gym for Evergreen. So now I'd like to move on to the executive session meeting that we just had. All we spoke about was personnel. We will be speaking about HIP, suspension and detention reports, and legal status report when we go back into exec. So at this time, we should go to the additions of the agenda. 12 BUS, asbestos safety control monitoring. 13 BUS, district insurance figures added. And 6 OBB, ratification agreement with the SPFBOE. The New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and attend meetings where public bodies at which any business of their interest is to be discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Scotch Plains Family Board of Education has closed notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted at the Board of Education offices located at 512 Cedar Street, Scotch Plains, New Jersey. Such notice was also provided in written notice form to the Times, the Township Clerk of Scotch Plains, and the Borough Clerk of Fanwood in the annual notice of regularly scheduled meetings as adopted March 29, 2018. At this time, we'd like to have our instructional updates.
Yes. Tonight we have with us Lisa Mora, Diane Pino, Kaylee Franz, and we'll be calling on Lisa Limbus. We have 2 reports that we have to make to the board. The first is our SSDS and HIP report, which encompasses the period from September of 2018 to December 2018. And then the second one will be an update on the local district special education report, which is for the years 2017 to 2018. Yes. Those reports come to us from the State Department of Education, and they are always a year behind. So with that, I think, Kevin, you need the screen?
I do, but not until partway through, so maybe we'll begin and then lower to the last piece.
Thank you.
Lisa, do you want to start? Would you like?
I can start. So the first portion of the presentation involves the SSDS report, which used to be called the Electronic Violence and Vandalism Reporting System. The data represents 5 identified categories by the State Department of Education, and it's entered biannually into the reporting system, once in December and then again in June. This data is reported publicly to the board 2 times a year, and we are reporting on the September to December 2008 timeframe. There are 4 categories that we submit information for: violence, vandalism, weapons, substance, and HIP, harassment, intimidation, and bullying. In the violence category, there were 8 incidences reported. In vandalism, there were 2, weapons, 0, substance, 19, and HIP, 5 confirmed cases. And these numbers represent district-wide numbers.
As you guys know, I'll now be giving you the harassment, intimidation, and bullying section of the report. As Mr. Limbus said, the following data is for the reporting period of September to December of 2018. For that reporting period, we had a total of 18 investigations. As she just mentioned, we had 5 confirmed cases of harassment, intimidation, and bullying in those 18 investigations. The status of all our investigation is complete as recorded on monthly Board of Ed agendas and as witnessed by you. In terms of bullying bullying based on protected categories. The state asks us to identify whether any of our cases have been based on protected categories that they have identified through the state law. For the September to December reporting period, we had one based on a mental, physical, or sensory disability, one based on race or color, two based on sexual orientation, two based on gender or gender identity and expression. It's important to note that this is not an unduplicated number. One case could be based on more than one protected category, so if you add those numbers up, they're not going to equal the 5 confirmed that I gave you. In addition, all other cases were based on other distinguishing characteristics not included within the identified protected categories. Our investigators for the September to December reporting period were Christina Iarussi, Amanda Wolf, Jason Cross, and Chrissy Krasovsky at our middle school level, April Chastain and Cesare Medley at our elementary level, and myself at the high school. For discipline imposed during that period, students who were found to be participating in harassment, intimidation, and bullying had police notification, suspension from school, discipline hearings, detention was assigned, they were warned of future consequences, and students were directed to have no contact with each other. For remediation, we did follow-up check-ins with students, teacher notification and monitoring, schedule changes for students, psychiatric evaluation, referral to wraparound programs, classroom-based social skills lessons. Students were separated within classrooms. Students were provided one-on-one counseling. Education was done on the definition of bullying. Parent conferences were held. Special education case managers were notified and asked to monitor students and interactions. Individual social skills building was done with identified students. Referral to community-based services and counseling. Monitoring of the school bus and school bus stop. Students were assigned community service. Self-advocacy skill building and referral to leadership groups for students. Empathy education. Bystander strategies education. Apologies and restitution were facilitated. Additional training was done for lunch aides and other school staff, and the implementation of social stories with certain populations of our students. The last two components that we always do with you guys are our trainings and programs. We are going to jazz it up a little tonight and introduce you to your new anti-bullying coordinator come this future year. She's going to walk through those, and we are going to do that section on color.
And I will be talking about the trainings and programs that were done this past fall throughout the district. So in district, some of the trainings consisted of leadership policy, protected class training, start with hello, understanding of promise, teasing bullying, essential lessons, responsive classroom activities, classroom meetings, and established classroom respect, school climate and culture improvement, social skills, social emotional skills buildings with district grades, LGBTQ training and student support. Further, in-district trainings included methods of preventing HIB, of standard social norms, wraparound services, substance abuse, crisis response, conflict resolution, mindfulness for students, student law and policy training, emotional regulation, and training for parents. Some of the out-of-district trainings that staff attended was suicide and mental health training, school climate and cultural improvement, school safety, suicide prevention and intervention, and the relationship to bullying, mental health supports within school districts, anti-bullying bill of rights, law changes, and ethics training. I do want to note that the trainings were provided to many different groups, including staff, contracted service providers, substitutes, community members, students, and parents. Also, trainings were provided within district, out of district, and with coordination of community resources such as the local police department. Some of the programs that took place throughout the entire district were new student orientation, open school climate activities, the Respect Week, school violence awareness league, leadership groups, Start with Hello, school wellness committees, cross-age teaching activities, service learning, and service groups. These are some of the programs that were throughout the district, as well as mostly in our elementary too. Daily public service announcements, positive climate announcements, school-wide assemblies and bullying and related topics, the Spirit Week, classroom-based character education, and the Kindness Initiative. These are some of the programs that are primarily in our elementary schools: social skills programming for targeted population, responsive classroom activities, bucket filling program, lunch bunch, teasing and bullying, 6 essential lessons at the elementary level. The LEADS program, Caught You Doing Good program, Student Spotlight program, STAR program, Ruler Student and Staff programming, and PALS programming took place mostly at our middle schools. And then we have Project Adventure team building activities, SPF United program, Green Dot Bystander Intervention, the Gay Straight Alliance Ally Week, No Place for Hate committee and activities. Thank you very much.
Okay, and then you get me back as always for any questions that you guys might have.
I just have a couple, and if you don't have these examples, it's okay. I was wondering what if you had some examples off the top of your head of what the positive daily announcements were, like at each school level, at elementary, like what do those sound like?
So they look different at all levels, and then they actually look different within each school. Because each school has a school safety committee, some of how they've tailored it for their school has come out of their school safety committee, so they're even different within like the 5 elementary schools at our elementary level. Oftentimes, they include, a word that we're working on, something that's a character trait, respect, and examples of what it might be, or kindness and what it might be, words to live by for the day, something that's positive. Sometimes they include mantras that are for yourself, so that students are also becoming aware of their social emotional skills within themselves, thinking that will then improve their life and all around. So it looks different every time, but that's the basic makeup of what it is across the board.
Thank you.
If we have no further questions on the SSDS, we'll transition over to the special education report, and Mrs. Pino and I will close up the PowerPoint and head over to the microphone together to present. So each year, the state of New Jersey, in fulfillment of the requirement for IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Act, must report annually to the public on the performance of each local school district in relation to state targets. The federal government established 4 of the state targets, while special education stakeholders in New Jersey established 8 of the indicators. Compliance was reported in these areas. For our district, there are 4 areas where it was not reported, as the Scotch Plains-Vanderbilt Public Schools were not included in the state's cohort. These include preschool outcomes, parent involvement, secondary transition, and post-secondary transition outcomes. 4 of the indicators, these are 4 of the 14 indicators. For the 17-18 reporting school year, the district met or partially met the following indicators: dropout rates, suspension expulsion, school age least restrictive environment, preschool least restrictive environment, disproportionality, and early childhood transition. The district did not meet the indicators for graduation rates, assessment, and effective general supervision of Part B child find, which I'll explain in a little while. So what does this snapshot tell us as a district? We continue to exceed the state expectations for the state target on the dropout rate performance indicator, which is 0% dropout rate for our district for 17-18. In 17-18, 80% of the students graduated within the 5-year time frame of their cohort. This percentage is impacted by the students who require transition programs until they are 21 years old, and thus they are not considered graduated with their cohort until they graduate from the program at age 21. We met this indicator by 80% of our student population. The state expects a higher percentage. In the area of assessment, we have a challenge meeting the participation rate with students with IEPs. However, we did increase our participation rate in both ELA and math in the district. We are at 92.1% participation in ELA and 92.9% participation in math. The district is meeting the indicator that shows we do not have a significant discrepancy in the rate of suspension and expulsion greater than 10 days for students with IEPs. Additionally, we continue to have policies and procedures to contribute to the use of positive behavioral interventions and supports and ensure procedural safeguards for students with IEPs. Our data trend shows that we are maintaining a higher percentage of students in districts. We continue to examine our programs to ensure we address the individual students' needs as they relate to their disabilities. As we are keeping more students in our district, this then impacts our percentage of students in the least restrictive environment. We did not meet the indicator, all of the indicators in that area, and one of the reasons is we are keeping more of our population in district and we're providing intense services in district, which decreases our out-of-district percentage, the indicator we met, but increases our percentage of students in special education about 60% of the time or more. So it's a balance of meeting the individual students' needs, and we're working on programming and implementing programs to keep them in district as opposed to putting them out of district. In our preschool program, we met the target for the least restrictive environment indicator. Again, we are meeting the needs of programming and supports for our preschool students with disabilities. So we're very excited about meeting that indicator as well. And today, one of the elementary schools had their sharing of portfolios with the families, and they're just amazing little people. Continuing on, we met the indicator that ensures we do not have a disproportionate representation of racial or ethnic groups in special education and related services or in any specific disability category, which again is demonstrating our systemic efforts to make sure that we are providing substantial supports to students. Finally, there are two indicators in which the state expects 100% compliance. The first indicator is in the first percentage of students is with the percentage of students evaluated within the established timeline of receiving parental consent for initial evaluation. The district was at 95% compliance in this area, and we continue to balance our parental requests and maintaining compliance. That's always a difficult balance in keeping our timeframes when we're trying to accommodate the needs of our parents. I'm excited to say that in the area of percentage of students referred prior to age 3 who are found eligible for services and who have an IEP developed and implemented by their 3rd birthday was 100% in the 17-18 year. So one of the exciting things as we look at this data, data sometimes can be scary and sometimes it can be exciting. I think one of the things that we talked about as a team is just how we're progressing as a system and some of the supports that we've put in and some of the programming that we've put in and how we're moving forward. So I asked Mrs. Pinino to be here with us today so she can share some of our special education programming.
Good evening. So some of the current initiatives that we have going on in special ed is we're applying the dyslexia screening process, including assessment, intervention, and staff training. We've had initiatives to improve reading comprehension and writing production. We provided training on specific programs and methodologies to target unique learners to make sure that we're individualizing instruction and not just giving a global instruction. We've included the special ed teachers in the general ed initiative trainings, like the Writers Workshop training, so they've been included in all of the district initiatives there. We've had special education representation on the cyclical review committee this year, and we're moving forward with the piloting, and we'll be having that as well. Self-contained teachers, they had a unique job that they did for us, and they aligned the general ed curriculum, significantly modified it, took the state standards that are in the curriculum and aligned it with the DLM essential elements. The DLM essential elements are the state adopted, significantly modified standards for students with significant disabilities. So they were able to take what the gen ed curriculum is, pull out those essential pieces, align it to what the state standards are for special ed students. And they were able to do that for us across the board. We also continued implementing and refining the community-based instruction that we've implemented last year and the year before. We finished a 3-year grant with the Morris Union Joint Commission on transitions and community-based instruction. That included a lot of staff training. They would come in and do observations while we're out in the community. And we also did some parent training along with them in collaboration with the CPAC community. Future initiatives, which are, we are very lucky, we were chosen by the state to participate in cohort 1 of the preschool outcomes in school year 2021, but for the school year 1920, we get to participate in an extra year prior to the cohort, where they're going to be training our preschool teachers and our child study team members, and we're going to be helping them, the state, in assisting to develop the assessment process and tools that will drive the cohorts and analyzing preschool data.
Any questions?
How did we get chosen for that?
They said that they chose schools that had various populations, so there's some large schools, some smaller schools, some medium-sized schools, schools in North Jersey, Central Jersey, and South Jersey, and we were the lucky, along with some other Central Jersey school districts that will be participating in the 4-year cohort. The nice thing about participating is that we are part of the establishment of the guidelines. So as we're working through the process and proceeding the training, we'll also be establishing how data is collected and how that is communicated to the community.
We give you feedback to the state on the realism of how we can implement that in the classrooms.
And looking at ways to see how students grow over that 3 to 5 year age span.
I have actually two. For the graduation rate, does that include out-of-district placements too?
All of our numbers include out-of-district students, and one of the things that we've reflected on as we have our self-contained programs in district, our students who have finished their time at the high school require transition program, vocational training, and they're staying in our programs until the age of 21 based on their needs. So that number is what impacts our graduation rate. Each class starts freshman year, and you have 5 years to complete that graduation. Our students who are in transition programs in district and out of district are counted in that percentage. So with students who require a transition program, it brings down that number, but we know we're offering them quality programs.
Because eventually they will graduate at 21 anyways.
Correct. And they've met their high school graduation requirements. They require community-based instruction, vocational skills, programming, that kind of thing.
At 21.
Until 21.
Right. But then you have very severely disabled out-of-district students that, it doesn't make sense. It seems to be like two kinds of pockets of people.
It's a difficult statistic.
Because you have 5 years of kids that, yes, there are some that can do it in 5 years, there's some that can do it in 4. But then you have those kids that are going to be in there till 21, and they'll never make that 100%.
It's an interesting, I think all of the data is always interesting in special education because our decisions are made on individual students. And when you're speaking of students with disabilities, they have various needs. And you can't put a cookie cutter percentage on any of them.
No, because you'll never get 100%.
Correct.
Because most special students, but a lot of kids do transition out to 21.
Right.
Yeah, right. Thank you. Great question. Any others? Well, thank you for the reports this evening.
Thank you.
My thanks to all of you for your hard work on these reports and for the thoughtfulness with which you're thinking through the programming. Whether it be our social emotional climates in the building or supporting the needs of students with special needs. I think that you guys will do a great deal of positive work, so thank you.
Okay, at this time then, we will move on to the public portion in accordance with the Scotch Plains Family Public Schools Bylaw 0164-0165. The meeting will be open for 15 minutes for public comments with a maximum of 2 minutes per speaker. Speakers addressing the superintendent items, business functions, and other board business will be heard first. If time remains, speakers may address other matters. As you approach the podium, please state your name and the town in which you reside.
Kindergarten student at school 1. I live in Scotch Plains. And I'm here because myself and several other parents have sent emails regarding the school 1 flooding issues. I'm here just to voice our concerns that the playground continues to be an issue. I've seen firsthand, I brought pictures to show you, and you might have seen from the emails, I'll put it here. Just to show you how bad the flooding is, and these pictures were taken 2 days after a rainstorm. The water can stand on the playground for sometimes 3 days, which is a concern to a lot of the parents at the school because we feel like it's a danger to the students, to the staff, and to people who live around the school. I'm sure you know standing water carries with it a lot of issues. Mosquitoes can breed, other pests can breed, mold, and those are just some of our issues. The children also aren't able to use the playground even on bright sunny days because the water is standing on it for so long. And in addition to that, even on the nicest days, if the water is on the playground and it's extremely wet, sometimes half of the building will still have to have indoor recess because there is just not enough room outside for all of the children to be on the blacktop. So they'll have blacktop only recess, but some kids still are inside for indoor recess, which to me, as a mom who just moved here from the city, I came here so my daughter could be outside as much as possible and be on a playground and be in the grass and trees, and now I hear that she's inside on like sunny, beautiful, warm days. So, and I didn't realize the extent of the issue until recently, but I'm here because I really want to see some changes happening there, and I was wondering the board's policy and what maybe future plans are. We'd love, obviously, to have work done over the summer, to have the playground fixed, because that's the best time to do work on school and the children aren't there. And just, if I still have time, we're also concerned about not only the playground, but flooding around the entire school. So there's also flooding on crosswalks, where children are avoiding the crosswalks and walking through either an active parking lot or a parking lot filled with machinery so that they can get to school or get home safely, because a lot of the children walk, and some of these children are walking unsupervised. So we have unsupervised children walking through active parking lots so they don't step in big puddles that have been standing for 2 days. And I know, like, I don't know the why the flooding is happening. I don't think at this point it matters. We just want to know how we can fix it and move forward so the children can have a normal playground with normal recess. I've been to the other schools and none of them have this issue. I was like learning about how all the schools are supposed to be equal, and it doesn't feel equal when my daughter has to spend half the time, inside or on a blacktop playing when she could be playing potentially on a playground. Oh, sorry.
I know this around something. That is your time. You can just wrap up your comments.
Okay, I guess I'll just end by saying that my daughter was here, but she was too tired and she was kind of off the wall. I'm sorry, but she had to go home, but she wanted to speak and just let you know that, she was excited to speak to you and tell you that she's
She is sad on the days that she doesn't get to play or the days that she has to stay inside, and that a lot of times the playground's flooded and muddy, and she just wanted to let you guys know that she also is hoping that we can get it fixed for her and all of her friends and the students at School One.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
You know I love to talk to you. I'm Rachel Richards, 61 Madison Avenue. I'm family, sorry about that. I'm also here to speak as a School One parent, but also as a Madison Avenue resident. Just to kind of piggyback off of what was said, we've been talking about this for a couple of years. We've had the conversations about the water in the back, and just to speak as a resident, it has not been resolved at this point. 2 years later, we still have in our backyard from the fence of the School One about a quarter of the way into our backyard, and it's seemed unusable, which is unfortunate because we love our town, we love where we are, we love our backyard, we want to be able to play in it. We have no grass from the fence, like I said, about a quarter of the way up because the water just sits. And like the pictures that are on the board, it sits just like that in our backyard as well. So again, just speaking as a School One parent for our students, to advocate for my kids to be able to play on the playground, but also to advocate and represent the residents of Madison Avenue, just to kind of see where we are in the process of the drainage, because I know we've talked about this in great length for the last few years, and just to kind of see if we're moving forward, if we've added anything. I know we planted some trees. Just curious to see if there's any other drainage or anything that has come up that the town is going to do to address the issues that the board's going to do. So thank you, I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. I'm Molly Donaldson, and I live in Glenwood. My daughter goes to School One, and she's in the kindergarten this year. So we're newish to the area. We moved to town a couple years ago, and it's our first year at School One. So I was one of the folks who sent an email, and I appreciate that you're hopefully looking into this issue. I know Mrs. Saradaki sent an email out last night about it. So I agree with what I said in my email, and I agree with what others have said here as well. I just moved here. I don't know the history behind it. Everything that I've heard has been second and third hand. I don't know what the plans are for this summer. Again, it's been heard second and third hand. I've read a few articles about what was discussed in 2016, 2017, when you all were looking at this parking lot issue, and what I really know is the flooding that I see every day as I walk my daughter to school. We live on the other side of the park, so we're using that path between Park Middle and School One to get to school. If there's flooding going on, it's a danger to my kids. It's a danger to my son's in a stroller. The path is very narrow, and so if there are folks walking next to each other, one stroller's got to go in the grass, which is usually flooded as well. The alternative to that is walking through the parking lot, walking through that maintenance facility, neither of which is particularly safe. At least when I'm walking with my daughter, I'm there and can look out for cars. Other kids aren't able to particularly navigate that well. So I agree that there are issues with our kids not being able to be out playing during the day. I don't want to slight that. I don't want to lessen the importance of that. I also agree that it's a safety and health hazard. My concerns really are with the safety of the issue and the potential of someone getting injured. Our babysitter over the winter actually fell off the path and landed in an icy puddle. She's lucky, that she was not injured, that our kids weren't injured, but we don't want to wait for that to actually happen to someone. That opens the board up for lawsuits. People could be injured pretty severely. So I think at this point, what a lot of us here are very concerned about is where are we going forward from here? We heard in the email that went out a very kind of generic answer. We're looking into it. We have plans to do something this summer. I think a lot of us would really just like to be part of that conversation and have some communication back and forth. I feel like at this point it's been very one-sided. We've expressed our concerns.
I would appreciate hearing things not third hand and, actually hear what is being done. So if that is something that, we can come up with a solution to keep parents in the loop, that would be great. Today's day of social media, it should be pretty easy to get information out. That's how a lot of us wound up here. If it's a matter of sending out a note, figuring out someone who can be a liaison between the parents and the board so we know what's going on, it can really, reduce the need to have folks at meetings and continuously bringing it up and feeling as though they're kept out of the loop. So, we want to make sure that you're making considerate decisions about the property. We want to make sure that these are cost-effective decisions. And we also want to make sure that they're just effective decisions overall, rather than spinning our wheels and feeling as though things aren't being done and we're not being informed. So, like I said, if it's a matter of having a liaison between our group and the board, I'm happy to step up and offer to do that. If someone else would like to do that, I'm happy to help. If it's a matter of just increasing the conversation, I think that's great. Because the alternative, I frankly don't want to be sitting and going through pages of engineering reports, looking at documents and trying to figure out how we move forward by having to request documents from the board because we're not getting information any other way. If that's what we have to resort to, I mean, there are plenty of folks here who are willing to put in the time and effort, I think, to do that, but I think that there are a lot of other ways that we can come up with a good solution that will make for a safer environment and help our kids to really have the best learning environment they can have. So, thank you.
Thank you very much.
My name is Ruth Charline. I live in Fanwood. I'm in third grade at school one. Experience with flooding. On the playground, around the jungle gym, after a rainstorm, there's literally a lake around it. And sometimes it's blocked off because there's so much water. And when it's blacktop only half the school, and you don't know all the equipment that you have on the playground. And I find that sometimes I'm just wondering what to do exactly. But if there's a playground, I'm usually not. And I don't really like it when it's indoor recess and it could be outdoors, and the other grades it's blacktop only, just because the playground's flooded. I know some areas, are really flooded, but also some areas are not wet. I don't know why it's blacktop only. happens was like maybe like a ditch that the water could go into. Or maybe like more like plants or things that might absorb the water faster.
Thank you.
Thank you. You did a good job, and you were very brave to go up there. Can you please spell your first name for me? Go ahead.
R-U-T-H.
Thank you, Ruth. I appreciate that. You did a great job. Thank you for the suggestions as well. Mom, can you tell me the last name?
S-H-A-R-L-E-I-N.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming out this evening.
Hi, I'm Pam Zajac. I live in Fort Wayne. Could you say your last name again? It's Zajac, Z-A-J-A-C.
Thank you.
I have two boys at school, one in third grade and one in kindergarten. And, just to reiterate what some of the other parents said, I'm completely behind them. And I also just have another layer. My third grader does receive several special services through the district. And when he does not have recess, a lot of the services are related to attention, body control, body awareness, self-awareness, and recess for him is kind of makes or breaks his day a lot of times. If he can get out and run around, burn off his energy, clear his head, he can kind of, his day is usually typically much more successful. So I think that we have to consider, every child at the school and, really make an effort that when it is great weather, that the kids are out there running around. And I know every kid at school wants to get out and just go crazy. But I just think for like in my personal situation, it's just so beneficial for him to have the outside fresh air and to be able to move his legs, help him focus for the rest of the day. Because having indoor recess when it's 70 degrees out and having to sit at your desk and draw for 25 minutes and you've been sitting for 3.5 hours already, just sets the kids up, and especially him for a really rough afternoon. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is John Wuchakakis from Fanwood. The son goes to Runner. Just want to introduce myself. I'm sure you're all tired of hearing or seeing my name. I want to thank Dr. Hayes for her support. And it's not tongue-in-cheek. It's, past 2 weeks have been a little rough. But I would like to take this forum to ask you all if we could set up a time to meet sometime over the summer, possibly come to some sort of for next year.
I'm sorry, I missed that word. Some sort of
Resolve for next year. So that my wife can walk my son to school without being harassed. And I do mean, I truly do appreciate the town support for both Fanwood, PD, and Scotch Plains. It's been great. Dr. Hayes, you and I haven't seen eye to eye for the most part, but I do know that you're doing the right thing as far as where we need to go. I'd like to see it get somewhere. So with that, have a good evening.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Laura Benoit and I live in Scotch Plains. I have two children at school, one a fourth grader and a fifth grader. So I recall a couple of years ago, I was here, and this is when they were thinking of putting in the parking lot. And I remember there were a lot of parents and a lot of concerns with regard to flooding. I know the Madison Avenue families talked about already having issues, and we voiced a lot of concern. We were concerned about the children's safety walking between Park and School 1 with regard to the parking lot and cars driving through. So full circle being back here again, just even more issue. And obviously things happen, but I just want to implore you guys to please look into it. Obviously, as another parent said, there's a lot of hearsay. Talk about mulch. I don't know if that's something for the district or not, but please really look into this. I mean, because there's civil engineering, there's the drainage condition. I know overall the town will have a lot of clay soil, which doesn't help with the drainage. I just don't want us to do a temporary fix because, as another parent said, we want to take care of this issue with regard to stagnant water, safety, ice. We'd rather deal with it now and help the district in any way we can versus something happening and an accident or someone gets hurt or someone gets sick from some type of insect bite with the stagnant water. We are here for you. These are our children. This is our community. It's our friends and family that live in the immediate area, but our children are here all the time. Parents are volunteering there all the time. And we're here to help you. So if there's things, I'm sure parents are willing to volunteer, provide, services, expertise, whatever it is. But this is not an issue that can be taken lightly or just passed over with any decision. Should be something that, looking at the original engineer report, seeing if there's anything that would possibly miss, we have the opportunity of the summer to look at it and try to fix it. And once again, I'm here, multiple parents are here, whatever resources that you need, or, putting the word out, or helping with RFP, or whatever the case may be, let's explore the situation and figure out like a long-term solution.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else that wishes to address the board?
I think Megan wanted to, her baby.
There will be another opportunity, let her take care of her child.
Okay.
I was just gonna say, we're
Yeah, she's okay, but she-
but just for the public, there is another time for public comment. This isn't the only opportunity, so there will be another opportunity for public comment during this meeting.
So closing that portion of the meeting for now. Committee reports, are there any committee reports? Okay, seeing none, I want to move on. Three letters to the board, one IET, email from Donna Secola, inquiring about the public on the district website, 2017-18 school self-assessment rates. Two LET, Terrell Middle School students, Shirley Nara and Eva Herrera, regarding bus transportation. 3LET, presenting emails from school one parents regarding drainage problems on the playground. 4LET, email from Mr. Anthony Fiore inviting the board members to Fanwood Town Council meeting on June 17th, where students are being recognized by Diane Grossman and Mallory's Marshall. This brings us to the superintendent's report.
Thank you. Tonight, I would ask that the board approve the out-of-district placements that are listed for the extended school year, as well as the 2019-2020 public and private out-of-district placements as listed on the agenda.
Any questions or discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any abstentions? Any no? Motion carries.
Thank you. 2S, I would ask that the board approve the superintendent's decisions in the 6 hit cases that were reported in executive session on May 30th, 2019. 3 out of the 6 cases were determined to be hit.
Second. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I have to abstain.
One abstention. Motion carries. Thank you.
3S, I would ask that the board approve the SSDS and the HIB for 2018 to December 2000, September 2018 to December 2018, that you heard the report tonight, and we would ask that you approve that so that we can submit it to the New Jersey Department of Education.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion or question? All those in favor? Aye. Any abstentions? Any noes? Motion carries.
Thank you. At our next meeting, I will be asking that the board acknowledge receipt of the biannual gifts to schools, Runner, Evergreen, McGinn, School One, Park, and the high school. At our next meeting, I will be asking that the board approve the special education summer field trips for the summer of 2019. I will also be asking 6S that the board approve the matrix forms. The matrix is listed on your agenda, and these were reviewed by Mrs. Ramirez. That goes to her area. And then moving on. And then at our next meeting, I will be asking the board to approve 7S, which is the nursing plan for 2019-2020. And then 8S, it will be the motion to approve the superintendent's ability to take action while we are in recess over the summer, so that we can keep the district moving forward, particularly in terms of hiring. And then 9S tonight, I would ask the board to approve the Danielson rubric and the Marshall rubric. These are the rubrics that guide our teacher and administrator evaluation systems.
So, second. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries.
Thank you. If you have any questions on any of the reports that we'll be approving at the end of June, just let me know. And at this time, we are not asking for action on the personnel agenda because we're going to go back into exec. But 2S, I think you can do 2 PPRS, you could probably do at this time. That's the motion for the appointment of the board officials. We need to do this annually, because it also includes some of the compliance officers that helps us to submit our comprehensive equity plan. So I don't think there's anything that would be questioned on this list. There are anti-bullying specialists, our affirmative action officer, a HERA and asbestos management compliance officer. I think all of these are our standard reapprovals.
Why is the position pending? I thought we had to say
The physician, because our
Physician was unable to continue due to personal issues. And so we are currently looking for another position, school position.
So I would ask that the board approve 2 PERS tonight.
Second. Any other question? The motion was made by Bill? And then Cindy, you seconded. Okay, so we got that one question. Any other question or discussion? Okay, we will roll call the second.
Mrs. Rooney?
Yes.
Dr. Clancy?
Yes.
Mrs. Flora?
Yes.
Mrs. Suriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Williams?
Yes.
Mrs. Winkler?
Yes.
Mr. Vernon?
Yes.
Dr. Coombs?
Yes. Thank you, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Hayes. Moving on to business functions. Mrs. Secretary.
Business functions I divided into 3 sections. I'd like to cover the items I'd like voted on first for 2018-19. One BUS is the approval of staff training on the report dated June 13, 2019. And 6 BUS, which ties in with the boiler replacement at Park Middle School. It has been determined that there is asbestos inside the boiler. And so this was the low bid for removing the asbestos components from the boiler. So that is, the lowest quote was Lesco Services in the amount of $37,400. And that money would also be taken from the excess extraordinary annual loan of the boiler, which was already permitted. 7 BUS, I'm asking for the board to approve locker replacements at Terrell Middle School. The cost is on the Educational Services Commission of New Jersey cooperative pricing. And the cost of that replacement is $217,833.49. And those funds will also be taken from the 2017-18 excess extraordinary aid. APUS, we have bathroom partitions that are needed at various schools. This is on the co-op, Educational Services Commission. And that amount is, and that would come from our current operating budget this year. It amounts to $76,071.10. And 12 PUS to go along with the asbestos in the boiler. There's also an air monitoring fee, air quality monitoring, and that would be from Environ Vision Consultants. That's the name change from, we used to use Environmental Remediation and Management, and that's the same company. And that amount will not exceed $10,652.74. Could be as low as $7,000, but we will just remove whatever amount from excess extraordinary aid that is, and that's for 2018.
So someone want to make a motion for that?
I have a question about that. Is that
Motion has to be made.
So moved.
Thank you, Dr. Clancy.
Now is a question. For 12 PUS, the amount that you have down there, is that an annual or is it?
No, it's just one time for the, when the boiler is removed, when the asbestos portions are removed, they have to just monitor air quality while that process is taking place. It'll be done during the summer. It shouldn't impact any of the students or anything anyway, but they'll just be monitoring.
How often do lockers have to be replaced?
How often do what?
Lockers have to be replaced.
Rarely. They're in very poor condition. They have several lockers they can't use. We did all of Park Middle School a couple of years ago. And
So this will be all the lockers at Terrell?
yes,
Okay.
yes, we have already done the locker rows at Terrell a couple of years ago, and so this will be the hallway lockers. And the problem with a lot of the lockers at Terrell also is that they're very narrow lockers. They were installed at that time, so these will be wider so they can actually put a backpack in if they wanted to.
And how long does it take? I guess it'll be done before school starts.
Yes. And if it's not, they'll be doing second shift when the students aren't around.
Mrs. Wentworth. I just wanted to note that I was looking at the doc of information on all of that we got from the Nursing Corporation, that the going through Educational Services Commission gives us an enormous savings.
Yes.
I think as large as this number is, it would be like twice that. It was huge. I was amazed. So thank you for having us participate in that. It's well worth what we spend.
Well, I don't know if it saves us actually quite that much, because you can also negotiate with a lot of the contractors. They will only sell at the fullest price. But it does save us, and it eliminates the whole bidding process.
Any other question or comment? We have a motion and a second then on this portion of business functions. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Those motions carried. Ms. Sarah, will you please take it?
Yes, I'll go through the balance of those items. 2 POS, I'll be asking next meeting for the board to acknowledge receipt of various disbursement listings. 3 PUS, I'll be asking the board to acknowledge receipt of the district school security and fire drill reports for May and June. 4 PUS, I'll be asking the board to acknowledge the January through June spring bus drills were held. We have to hold those twice a year because we're a transporting district. 5 BUS, I'll be asking the board to approve acceptance of the Union County Board of Freeholders Dig-In Grant in the amount of $250 awarded to McGinn. 9 BUS, I'll be asking for the board to approve transfer of the current year's surplus to reserves. 10 BUS, I'll be asking for the board to acknowledge receipt of various rewards for the month of May. 11 BUS, I'll be asking the board to approve bills for the period May 29th through June 21st. And that's everything for 18-19. 19-20, we'll just see if there was anything that we needed to vote on. I think there was.
13, 15, 16.
Okay, I'll cover those items first. 13 BUS, I'm asking for approval of district general insurance, which has a decrease over from 2018-19 in the amount of $10,475, a 1.2% decrease. You'll see that the multi-peril package increase is significant, 6.2%. That's because our buildings weren't valued quite as high as they should be, and so our insurance agent is inching that up. And because our total package was down, he increased the value of our buildings under our insurance policy. Then you'll see, the only other thing I want to point out is our excess umbrella policy has gone up significantly. Dollar-wise, not a lot, but percentage-wise. And you'll see the fireman's fund has decreased. And that's because what we've done is we've increased under our Utica policy we increased our umbrella policy to 15 million from 10 million, which increases our personal insurance. But the cap policy that's under the fireman's fund is a shared policy, and it decreases because our policy won't come into effect until 15 million. And that goes up to 50 million, in some cases 100 million, depending on the type of incident. And so that's, it offset almost completely in dollars, but get the insurance by increasing our own personal excess umbrella. It's our insurance rather than part of the group's insurance. Those were the significant changes. 15 BUS, I'm asking for approval to submit the 2020 ESEA consolidated grant in the amount of $209,362. 16 BUS, I'm asking for the approval of the 2019-20 IDEA grant in the amount of $1,374,843. Both of these include both public and non-public funds. And that's everything that I'd like to have voted on.
Second. Any questions or comments on those items? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. The balance of the items, 1 BUS will be related service vendors for the ESY and the 2019-20 school year. 2 BUS will be our frontline renewals, which we're still waiting for dollars from the company regarding. 3 BUS are the Union County Ed Services agreements, special education tuition for the school year as well as the extended school year, professional services, non-public school textbooks, non-public school technology, non-public school nursing, non-public security aid program agreement, non-public IDEA, Chapters 192, 193 services, and ESEA Title I. These are all programs we're required to administer for non-public schools, and Union County Educational Service Commission helps us administer that. 4 BUS is a tuition agreement with Union County Vocational Technical Schools. There is no increase in that. 5 BUS will be the bid award for the lease purchase, which will be opened on June 25th, 2019.
6 BUS is the bid award for the transportation contract for 2019-20. I'm sorry, that should be asterisk. So if I could add, we received one bid. We did send it out to several, probably a dozen bus companies. But the increase was, I guess, about 15% over this year.
I thought Durham had said that they could no longer manage our,
At the price that they were charging us, they were losing money.
that's why they had to go back out a bit.
The state has had very low renewal rates.
There is currently a statewide shortage of bus drivers.
Oh, yeah.
So the rate costs for transportation for private services statewide are increasing.
So what we were paying for these routes was approximately $480,000. We'll now be paying $542,000. I will need a vote on that later, but I'll finish this. 7 BUS will be the renewal of professional service contract with Energy for America for 2019-20. That's a 2% increase. 8 BUS is approval of our E-rate consultant, Don Dietrich, as 0% increase. That's $4,800. That's appointment of our insurance risk manager, Arthur J. Gallagher. Appointment of our employee benefit agent, Centrix Benefit Consulting. Appointment of our architect of record. We've added EI Associates to that. They are the company that did our HVAC work in the high school this past year and also putting together plans for our foods classroom. 12 BUS is the appointment of the bond counsel. There's no increase in that price. It's $4,000 a year. 14 BUS, pay schools for cafeteria QSP system, and that's annual software licensing, depot hardware, software support for the QSP system used in the cafeteria. Total cost of $7,333.65. 17 BUS will be systems 3,000 renewals at an overall increase of 2%. And that's for the various modules we use. So that's everything under the 2019-20.
Okay, so we just need to have a motion for 6 BUS.
Yes.
So thank you, Dr. Clancy. Thank you, Mr. Morris. Any discussion about the bus routes? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. Thank you.
Then we have our procedural, which I'm hoping when we vote on this next week, I don't have to go through it again. I can just say all the procedural items. But 1 BUS is payment of invoices through August 2019, and that's to authorize me to process invoices for payment without the board voting on, and you will vote on, confirm all of them at the August meeting. 2 BUS is the board approves that they'll be guided by Robert's Rules of Order, parliamentary procedures. 3 BUS, the Uniform Minimum Chart of Accounts, moving that the board authorizes the use of the minimum chart of accounts for New Jersey Public Schools for 2019-20. 4 BUS is the collection and maintenance of student records. As far as the board approves the collection and maintenance of student records in the authorized categories and will regulate access pursuant to NJAC Title 6A 32-7 to ensure the educational welfare of the students in this district. 5 BUS is the authorization of budget transfers as necessary between meetings and that they will be ratified by the board at the next meeting. 6 BUS is establishing the impress petty cash fund, which we set at $1,000 with no individual expenditures to exceed $150. 7 BUS are our 403B tax shelter brokers, it's AXA Equitable, First Investors Corp., FTJ Fund Choice, Lincoln Financial, Lincoln Investment Planning, and Valley. And 8 BUS is the approval of 457 tax shelters. That's AXA, FTJ Fund Choice, and MetLife Insurance Company. 9 BUS is mandatory direct deposit program, and move that the board approves the continuation of the mandatory direct deposit program and adopts a resolution that TD Bank will be the banking institution handling the direct deposit process. 10 BUS will be the report of awarded contracts that you'll be receiving. 11 BUS is the readoption of the board policy manual. 12 BUS is that accepts the existing master agreements with the following units, and that's the 4 units, the SPFBOE, the Administrative Group, the Supervisors Association, and International Brotherhood of Teamsters Local, and it's no longer 102, I believe it's 569, but we'll get that corrected before the next meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Steiner. Moving on to board policies.
At the next meeting, I will move for us to approve second reading on the following policies. Bylaw 0167, public participation in board meetings. Bylaw 0168, recording board meetings. Policy 2468, independent educational evaluations. Policy 3124, employment contract. Policy 4124, employment contract. Policy 3282, use of social networking sites. Policy 4282, use of social networking sites. Policy 3324, right of privacy for teaching staff members. Policy 4324, right of privacy for support staff members. Policy 4125, employment of support staff members. Policy and regulation 4281, inappropriate staff conduct. Policy 6511, direct deposit. Policy 7481, unmanned aircraft system. Policy 7522, school district provided technology devices to staff members. And policy 7523, school district provided technology devices to students.
Thank you, Mrs. Weaver. Any questions about anything? Any policies that were just on the list? Okay, any new board business? Other board business? Any requests to attend workshops? Workshop reports? And the next meeting will be the adoption of a resolution of negotiating services. 3OBB, appointment of treasurer school monies at our next meeting. 4OBB, legal counsel for special education. 5OBB will be the board attorney. And then 6OBB, tonight, yes, ratification of the agreement with the SPFBOE. Hayes, can you help me out with this?
So we would like to move that the Board of Education hereby approves the memorandum of agreement as negotiated between the Scotch Plains Family Education Association and the Scotch Plains Family Board of Education for the period from July 1, 2019 to June 30th, 2023, with annual increases of 3.0, 3.1, 3.1, and 3.2 respectively. And I just want to thank the member of the SPFBOE the audience. Thank you for the collaboration that finally brought us to this point.
Okay, can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Thank you, Mr. Murray. Okay, any questions or discussions? All those in favor? Aye. Any abstentions? Any noes? Motion carries. Yes. Okay, that brings us to the approval of the minutes.
That should be an asterisk.
No asterisk, that's what I thought. So next meeting will be making a motion on the meeting minutes from May 9th for the open agenda executive session, May 9th open agenda meeting, May 30th regular board meeting executive session, and May 30th regular board meeting. So now in accordance with the Scotch Plains Family Public Schools bylaws 0164, 0165, the meeting will be opened again for 15 minutes for public comments. Maximum of 2 minutes per speaker. Speakers addressing business functions and other board business will be heard first. If time remains, speakers may address other matters. As you approach the podium, please state your name and the town in which you reside.
Raise this up. Hi there, Matt Ritter. I live in Warren. I'm a teacher at the high school, and I'm here tonight as the corresponding secretary for the SPFBOE. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I wanted to quickly thank the Board of Education for approving the memorandum agreement. It means a lot, and we'll work hard to get here. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing no one else approaching the podium, we'll move on to the good of the order. Anybody have anything for the good of the order?
I do. I have first an announcement that the class of 2019 senior project gallery walk is on Wednesday, June 19th from 9 to 10 in the high school cafeteria. So if anyone is available, it's great to be able to see the students present senior projects that they've been working on. These are all seniors, they'll be graduating, and they've been working on very special projects since May through the end of the school year. So that's wonderful. The other thing that we have tonight is we would like to recognize Chris. Come on up. With our thanks for your diligence in terms of our board meetings and taping and always being here for us, we want you to open that because we think and hope you'll find this is a special thing. The other side of the camera.
You shouldn't. They gave me cards. Thank you so much. Thank you. Oh, this is too kind of you. I really appreciate it.
Show it to Chris, show it.
Yes, it's a hat for the school. I will be attending. I will be here in 2 weeks. Thank you very much.
I have something for you. There's been a lot of wonderful senior things going on, and I was able to attend last night the senior athletic banquet and seeing all the athletes there and the student athletes and going on and all the things that they're going to be doing. I did want to just acknowledge that the Athletes of the Year, the name now has been named after a former SPF coach, Mr. Len Zanowitz. And it was a lovely, at the end of the evening, they announced that the Athletes of the Year, who are Sarah Green and Anthony Porter, that this award was now going to be named after Mr. Len Zanowitz. And I didn't know much about him, but it was clear that he was a coach for many years in our district. And he retired in 1996, in the spring of 1996, because Mr. Cable mentioned he started in the fall of 1996, and I guess Mr. Zanowitz was also a math teacher. But anyway, he coached everything, as far as I could gather. Football, track, baseball, all the boys' sports. And he's very highly thought of, and it was a really nice way to end the senior athletic awards banquet. He got a standing ovation at close to 90, I believe. He gave an incredible speech that was wonderful, and it was good. It's obvious that his impact, he still comes for the public. I guess he still comes to wrestling matches and to other things. So it was just a nice end for the evening for Mr. Zano, and he brought his family. So it was very nice.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, and, try to catch as many of the events as you can. 'Cause you'll have a senior and then it'll be.
Well, most of us were at Monday's Senior Awards
Yeah.
over in the Evergreen Gym, and that was another outstanding event, and all those very talented people in academics and all their medals and certificates that they came out to receive. It was nice to see such fine, outstanding students that we have.
And I know there was I was able to see online some performances from the singing, from the music awards. So just a lot of talented young people who have been given a lot of opportunities by their parents and by our district. So we should all feel good about that.
Anyone else for the good of the meeting? Mrs. Winkler?
A couple nights ago, I had the pleasure of attending the senior recital, which was really, really something to see them get up there and just, we have a lot of talent here. It was neat, and it was organized by the students themselves. It was hosted and emceed by the students. It was coordinated by them, and they had a good time cooking, really fun at each other. It was a nice evening. It was really lovely. Thank you.
There is no more for the good of the order. I have a motion to adjourn. No. Oh, except we have to go and adjourn to exec. And also, as a notice, next meeting will be the June 22nd, the public meeting here at 7:30 in the administration offices. So motion to go into exec, and when we come out of exec, we will return, action will be taken after we adjourn from exec back into public here. Next meeting. Those in favor? Aye. Deb, make a motion. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, I'll make the motion.
Just confirming who did make the motion.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I did, but I don't know if somebody else did.